Right, I think I'm going to go ahead and get started here with this next session here. I wanted to bring to everyone's attention just some of the funding opportunities that were available from the federal government and some legislation that is unfortunately pending as opposed to voted on. I thought we'd have some more definitive programs to discuss at this meeting, but sounds like some of these, the infrastructure and reconciliation bill, I think not till the end of October will we know more. But I'm just going to hop into this. I did include some other slides that I might just move through quicker and just get right to our funding opportunities. And I guess just as far as alternative fuel basics, just as I mentioned that often, or we all do, the fuels that we are often referring to are those that were designated under the Energy Policy Act. So we have biodiesel, electricity, ethanol, hydrogen, natural gas, and propane, though in this administration, there's a strong emphasis on electric. So why do we kind of go towards some of these alternative fuels? You can see some big savings. Sometimes it's a higher upfront cost for these vehicles, but the fuel savings, especially if you've planned for demand charges and whatnot, that they are pretty stable comparatively to diesel and gasoline. And we're definitely seeing and feeling that right now for those that are using gasoline in our vehicles. This is just a quick comparison really to show the kind of general amount of the average greenhouse gas emissions per alternative fuel, as well as the price per gallon equivalent. And this I made a long time ago, and the prices of gasoline and diesel have gone up. Okay, so just straight to some of these funding opportunities that we are aware of at the moment. So a new funding opportunity was actually just announced last month, and it's called LEAP. It's Local Energy Action Program. And this is through the Department of Energy. And so this is a pilot initiative, and the funding is going towards technical assistance services for communities. So it's not even just limited to electric vehicles or vehicle deployment. It's looking at renewable energy as well, and energy efficiency type things. So this is a program that they're hoping to fund quite a few communities. So that's really nice to see. And there's $16 million in this grant. They're taking public comment until the 12th, and then the application actually doesn't even open until the 25th. This is a program, usually Clean Cities, we can sometimes write the grant or be a partner on the grant. This is one that we cannot be a partner on, but we can bring awareness to this to our communities and our region. So this is, as I mentioned, it's new, and it's supporting communities that are experiencing either direct environmental justice impacts or direct economic impacts from a shift away from our historical reliance on fossil fuels. So this will hopefully be funding some communities that have historically not been able to receive funds through the Department of Energy. And I'll move on to the next one. And this is another new one that was just announced as well. This is the Inclusive Energy Innovation Prize. And these are cash prizes to groups and organizations that support entrepreneurship and innovation. And again, this is also in communities that are underserved, historically underserved in climate and energy technology. This will be for 10 organizations to receive funding from 2.5 million. And then this opened in September, but they're trying to provide access to communities and entities that usually haven't applied to DOE funding, because sometimes the process is a bit onerous and confusing. And so this funding opportunity has a much longer timeline, which is wonderful. So open in September, and it doesn't even close until February. And the award announcements will be made in March. And this has a 2-phase approach. So there'll be a certain amount that are awarded in the first phase, and then from those organizations, there'll be another round of funding. So this is new and unique. Again, this isn't specific to transportation, but the components of this can be electric vehicles and alt fuels can be funded through this program. Okay, and then also the EPA school bus rebate programs. This year we're seeing 2 different rebate programs, and I think Neil will be talking about the state program for Montana in a couple of presentations here, but this is at the federal level. And so there, let's see, I don't see my notes, but there's a new electric school bus rebate. It's separate from the traditional DARA school bus rebate. And obviously the electric rebate, the vehicle must be electric. And then within the traditional program, you can use other forms of alternative fuels. They've provided a lot of resources on the website in this nice, easy chart to look at the differences. And on the EPA's website, just for DARA, you can see that they've had already some webinars about the funding, and they provide a lot of resources to help school districts apply. This, I think, is a big difference too, in that for the electric program, you can receive up to $300,000 per bus, up to 4 buses with a maximum of 1.2 million. The amount is significantly less for the traditional DARA program, but still it's funding nonetheless. So share this if you're with your school districts, and we'll hopefully get some of these vehicles going on out on our roads. And this is what I was just talking about at the beginning. So, unfortunately, this doesn't look that great, but the INVEST Act, which is also known as the Infrastructure Bill, and the Reconciliation Bill, also known as the Build Back Better, are 2 bills that are being discussed currently, and there's language out there on what is contained in them as they are introduced at the moment, though there's room for these to be edited. So currently in the INVEST Act, there's $12.7 billion towards clean vehicles. And I think when this was first introduced, there's a little grumbling that was not enough to cover a lot of the promises and the commitments that President Biden had made about deployment of electric vehicles. I think John mentioned the 50% EV by 2030. I may be saying that wrong, but and as well as the infrastructure to be deployed throughout the country. So the reconciliation bill actually is making up for that with $34.5 billion towards ZEV only, zero emission vehicle only projects, and $117.1 billion towards clean funding. So that also includes renewable energy, energy efficiency, some climate change planning, various things like that. And so I kind of broke down the INVEST Act a little bit more, looking at EV Atlas Hub. If you haven't been to their website before, I recommend checking it out. They have a very thorough analysis of these bills with breakdown of what department at the federal level is managing different aspects of these programs. So I used their analysis to prepare these upcoming slides. So this is the INVEST Act. So as far as electric vehicle funding, there'll be state energy programs to accelerate the electrification of all sorts of vehicles, but that they have earmarked 500 million towards that. And then included in this, they have a lot of different working groups and studies that they don't say the amounts that's attached to these, but they're included in the language in this bill. So that will be interesting to see how these will come to fruition and how much funding they might actually put towards them. And school buses, there's 2.5 billion towards this full zero emission buses only, and then 2.5 billion towards the clean school bus program. So those we just discussed, and these would go towards those programs. And then electric vehicle charging infrastructure, there is, they have 2 different kind of programs that they'll be offering. 5 billion will be through the National Electric Vehicle Formula Program, and then there'll be another one. Oh, sorry. Does someone have a question? Okay. And then the other one is a different source of funding, 2.5 billion, and that can also help fund other types of infrastructure such as natural gas, propane, hydrogen. Oh, okay. And then, oh, and within this, there has been some calculations on the amount that each state will get. And I know, maybe Neil can mention what Montana would be receiving under this if it's passed as stated, but it was for Wyoming, I think 27 million they would receive, and so each state gets a different amount based on a formula that they've used. And then there's funding towards the grid, deployment of technologies to enhance grid flexibility. There's a 3 billion towards that. And then again, this other study here was not stated. And there's a lot of funding towards batteries. Hopefully this will help some of the developments that INL is working on too. And let's see. Okay, the reconciliation bill. I actually didn't, there's so much in the reconciliation bill. I didn't go through it in the same way that I did for the Invest Act. I'm just gonna, again, I mentioned Atlas EV Hub. I would go there if you really wanna look at a thorough chart of everything that is included in there, but I've just, I'll add this in my slides when I share them with everyone so you have record of it, but I'm just gonna talk through some of the things that might be of interest to people in our region. So there's a clean heavy duty vehicle program. They've attached 5 billion to that. And then another program to reduce air pollution at ports, it's 3.5 billion. A new GHG, greenhouse gas emissions reduction fund, 27.5 billion. DARA would receive 170 million. They'd create an environmental and climate justice block grant for 5 billion. And then coming into some more of the infrastructure side of things for electric vehicle charging infrastructure rebate program, there'd be up to 2 billion for that. And then EV charging infrastructure and an equity program, that would be another 1 billion. So these programs right here might be of interest to some of our stakeholders who are looking to deploy and build some of the DC fast charging infrastructure that our region still needs. There's another 10 billion for charging hubs. So that could be working with transit agencies, kind of similar to the Teton County presentation earlier. Then there's another program for GSA, clean vehicle fleet, and 5 billion is earmarked towards that. That's also of interest to our region since we have a lot of federal agencies with the national parks, Forest Service, so they could utilize these funds. 7 billion towards the Postal Service. And then for individuals, the tax credit currently is up to 7,500, but this would add to that amount. I think it's up to 12,500 for a new vehicle, depending on what your vehicle type is. There's a very specific breakdown. I don't think it's necessary to memorize that yet because it hasn't passed, but it's great that it's in there, and we'll definitely share the specifics when it's passed. And then also what I like that was in there is a tax credit for used electric vehicles. And so far that's up to 2,500 for a new vehicle. And I think between 1,200 and up to 2,500 for a plug-in hybrid. 2,500 for a used full electric. So that's the reconciliation bill, but there's much more in there. Those are just some high level areas that I was thinking people would be interested in learning here. And then, I already covered the school bus grants for DARA, but they also have national tribal grants. And so I covered the school bus, and then there's also state grants. And I'm not gonna go into detail on all of those. It's the school bus rebates that are currently open. This is a slide from a past presentation. They're currently open. And then just some examples of some other funding opportunities that, like the town of Jackson received funding for those Proterra electric buses through the USDOT Low or No grant program. That isn't open currently, but through this legislation, there's going to be an influx of more funds towards that program from what we can tell so far. So be aware of that, and we'll certainly share that information when it's open. And then also the Department of Energy Technologies vehicle technologies office grants. There usually was about one a year that was really relevant towards clean cities coalitions and our stakeholders. This past year, there's a couple, and I can see in the future there being a few more. These are usually announced kind of in the springtime, and there is a past one this year that we applied for with a couple different grants, and one is still in the running. I think they'll make announcements, or they said they make announcements this October. So we'll see about that one. But we definitely share this information through our newsletter and so our social media outlets when they announce these. And we love to partner with our stakeholders on different projects, depending on all the criteria, because every one of these awards or grant programs is a little bit different depending on the criteria that the DOE puts forth. So here is just I'm just showing some tools here where you can look up different laws and incentives. I'm not sure why I have that in here actually, but we're trying to update our website a little bit more. So I think we have a lot of those. Bailey, our project manager, updated our website with a lot of those funding programs already. I think we might even break them down a little bit more so that you can easily see the deadlines and timeline and amount of funding and where to apply and such. But yeah, try to use our website as a great resource to understand what's currently open, what exists that will be open hopefully in the future. But it's really exciting right now how much money is going to be going towards electric vehicles and alternative fuel vehicles. So we have a great stakeholder base right now, and we look forward to partnering with many on applying for these funds that will hopefully be available really soon. So thank you all for attending and listening to this and being aware of the funding that's available. And I look forward to partnering with you all. I'll leave it there and see if anybody has any questions.